This week's Torah portion of Parshat Terumah speaks about the construction of the Mishkan, the tabernacle. But the construction of the Mishkan, the tabernacle, was preceded by the construction of the kelim, the utensils which would adorn the tabernacle. And we are familiar with many of them. There are three in particular that I want to discuss and offer with you a tremendous insight that might seem rather elemental, fundamental, but resonated with me and I think are extremely important for us to appreciate. And those are the Shulchan, the Menorah, and the Aron. The Shulchan is the table that adorned the middle of the Azara, the middle of the main hall of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle. The Menorah, the lights, the candelabra, which held upon it the candles, which illuminated the essence of the Mishkan, the tabernacle. There is no question that the Shulchan represented something as mundane, work, dough, production. The Menorah, there's no question, also represented the lights of mitzvot, the commandments, spirituality. However, let us understand, the base of the Menorah itself was always grounded and attached, never to be removed from the ground itself. This is opposed to the Aron. The Aron, the main essence, the main vessel that adorned the center and focus and epicenter of the Mishkan, was the focus of all of the work that took place in the tabernacle. The Aron, the Ark of the Covenant. This had upon it the badim, special poles that were inserted into rings, representing the fact that the Aron, the ark itself, would always be carried and could be elevated. In fact, the Torah tells us in Perek Chafhei Pasuk Tetvav very clearly, "B'tabaot Aaron yu habadim lo yasuru mimenu." These poles were never to be removed from the sides of the Aron, of the Ark of the Covenant. Why? Representing, says Rav Shamshon Raphael Hirsch, the poles allowed a person to carry the Aron. When you carry the Aron, you demonstrate that the covenant is not something that is only physical, attached to the ground, but it could be elevated. It is something that could be carried with you regardless of where you would go. It is something that could maintain or contain within it spiritual value, that regardless of a physical manifest or a physical infrastructure, if it no longer was present, there still would be spiritual attributes. The Aron, therefore, could be elevated with these poles, demonstrating that it's above the ground. The spiritual nature, the spiritual message that would resonate with people could be carried, transmitted, and brought from one place to another for a person to learn from, regardless of whether or not the tabernacle existed or whether or not was destroyed. Those messages of spirituality, divinity, theology, and understanding and embracing Hashem and the service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu would be elevated from this ground, are above physical manifestation, and could be carried with a person regardless of where they find themselves and regardless of the challenges with which they would confront. If I did not believe that the world manifested itself within spiritual or spiritual divine manifestation, I'd be in big trouble. Because if I only subscribe to the physical manifest of this world, then with the loss of my child, the loss of Gila, the loss of my daughter, I would know that I am indeed limited and that I am indeed challenged and suffer, and not knowing or not understanding or comprehending that there is something beyond. But the fact that even within Gila's death, there is an Aron, an Ark of a Covenant, that has poles within it that allow me to elevate those poles and to carry and transmit those messages regardless of where I find themselves, and be able to certainly give over and transport the messages of a spiritual existence everywhere I go and everything that I do, and in any way that I manifest myself and my life, as well as my family's. That gives me strength and the resilience, the ability to continue on. Knowing that Gila is no longer alive physically, but knowing that she is very much alive with those poles that would allow her spirit to be elevated and carried from place to place, is what gives me the resilience, the know-how, the desire, and the capacity to face every single day. So should it as well as a nation, as a people, and as a Jewish nation together in the land of Israel with Torah Yisrael, the spiritual manifest of the Torah itself that we can carry with us regardless of where we find ourselves, regardless of the confrontations and challenges that we experience, and regardless of the time in which we live. The Torah ascends all eternity. This is the message of the Parsha. This is the Jewish way. It is the Torah way. And I have learned from Gila's spirit, it always will remain the Gila way. Shabbat Shalom.